I went through an entire phase of depression. I had put in my papers 6 months. I was not allowed to be alone at all. So and all three brothers of mine live in and around NCR. So I had to go and I was spending 2 weeks in one brother's house, 2 weeks in one brother's house, 2 weeks in one brother's house. All I did at that time, and this is what I would like to tell people who are listening to me.
This is the first time that I'm telling this story.
Hello there, and welcome to Whips and Chains.
An individual can be sold innumerable times.
What are the whips that we flog ourselves with often?
I had discovered cancer. I had breast cancer.
And what are the chains that bind us down?
फिर मैंने YouTube पे देखा कि फीमेल फिटिसाइड होता कैसे
Is something I want to explore in my show.
They're orphans.
It's okay. It's okay.
गर्दन निकलती है बाकी हिस्सा ऐसे ऐसे करके निकलता है यार इतना बड़ा पाप होता अपने गांव में
It's horrific.
Somebody passed me by and hit my bum.
He did have a personality disorder.
कई बार मैं सो ही नहीं सका
All the traffickers that I have seen, they are common people like you and me.
She said, Kanda tu dein, vata putar tu.
If you talk about human trafficking, it's a billion-dollar business.
There was a lot of violence, a lot of aggression.
बड़े बड़े पुल बना दोगे उनसे ह्यूमैनिटी तो नहीं बनने वाली
And welcome to Whips and Chains. Hello there, and welcome to Whips and Chains, the show where we create a safe space to use our unleashed voices and unmasked faces to talk about things that society asks us to shush. Among all the difficult questions that I bring up here, one of the things is that all the challenges that women face often make one close up, clam up, and become difficult and damaged. My guest today is someone I have known for the longest time. And the reason that I have got her here is that she is not only a survivor of the most brutal kind of experiences that women can endure, which include betrayal in love, domestic abuse, and cancer. But everything that she has endured has still kept her a true heart, a brave heart, and someone who is vulnerable and open to love and second chances. Hi, Saqiba. It's an absolute delight to have you here. And, we spoke about this for the longest time, and you were one of the people that I thought of instinctively because we go back such a long way. So I just want to start at the very beginning of your life so that, we kind of understand how you evolved, how you became you. So tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Sure, Nivi, thank you so much for inviting me. It came as a surprise, when you approached me. Before I spoke to you, I actually didn't realize that I've had such a roller coaster ride, in my life.
Yeah.
We are 5 of us in the family. We are 5 siblings, and of course, I was the youngest.
And you also lost your dad before you were born,
That's
actually.
right.
Yeah.
So I lost my dad just before I was born, and I was a very wanted child in the family and a very wanted girl child,
Yeah. Which is
So-
quite a unique thing in
It's-
Lucknow, in a
Family,
family
yeah,
like yours. Yeah, right.
So, extremely protected by my family, by my mother, by my elder brothers and sisters. I won't say spoiled, but very pampered. And when I say protected, I don't mean like a typical Muslim family, but we are very well-read, well-bred family, and
Education is a big thing in your family.
education has always been a very big thing, So my brothers went to one of the best boarding schools in the country. My sister and I, we went to one of the best boarding schools, I would say in Asia probably, a girls' boarding school. And the struggles that my mother faced were completely unknown to me because she was not allowed to work. I still fathom how she was able to pay, the fees, etc., etc. Post my school, I then, went to Delhi University, didn't want to go back to Lucknow, where
understandable.
my mother was. So I insisted on coming to Delhi. Elder brother was, I got under his wings and behind him to protect me and say, and
She's
get a
going to be here.
yes from
Yeah.
my mother to be in Delhi. So I did my college from Delhi University, post which, I quickly found a job so that I couldn't go back to Lucknow. My mother, of course, still kept insisting that I go back, study further, do a few other courses, etc., etc. And then, of course, look at getting work or getting married or, so even then, marriage was never on my mother's agenda as a full stop for any of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then, along my profession, I started working with an NGO. We were fighting for, human rights. I remember, way back, of course, there was women liberation happening in Libya. And then, of course, we were very interlinked as an NGO with Dalai Lama and his entire,
Yeah. Following.
system and beliefs which we
Yeah.
were promoting. And then I was very happy working with the NGO. However, it's a small time NGO, beginner at the age of 21, 22, you want the money. Uh, and I was offered an airline job by another friend. I took that on, and I think somewhere I felt that that was probably the turning point in my life because there I met another gentleman. Now, while my family was very open minded, while, it was education plus religion plus the family values, etc., etc., but yet not so open minded to have a boyfriend or,
Yeah.
hang out with a boy, particularly. While I had lots of friends, I mean, I had lots of boyfriends. My mother was
Yeah.
very open to inviting them at home,
Yes.
etc. But so somewhere I felt, and that was my own thinking, So I felt a little low about it, and not really low. I felt a little scared about it. I felt a bit insecure about it. That if I do go to my mother or I do go to my elder brother and tell them that I'm
They
seeing
will
this
not
guy,
support you.
they definitely would not have supported me.
And he was from another community as well.
Especially coming from another community. So, having said that, down the line, my mother did come to know about it. And of course, she was
Broke her
not at
heart.
all, yeah. So, not only that, she understood that that's my age. And that was really surprising. But she said, these people, you are
Yeah.
from a different community, the boys from another community, and, things will not
Work out.
work out, and time to pack up and come to Lucknow. And that's when I decided to, go away with,
Run away.
run away with this guy. I went off to Bangalore, and that's when things
Trouble started.
started, turning. So there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of aggression, uh, but extremely, extremely, I saw a very, very bad side of life, considering the education that I received, considering the family background that I came from, with so much of awareness, so much of power, that my family had given me.
So did
I
this happen suddenly or did it happen gradually? What, how did it transition? I mean, did it overnight your life change?
No, 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 no. It happened very, very gradually, by and by, as we started getting deeper into a relationship, uh, and deeper and deeper. And the actual aggression, the beating, the violence really started when we were alone in Bangalore. So he came with his own background. His parents, or rather, his mother did not agree to me. My folks, probably did not agree to him. The sad thing and what I feel as a regret until today is that, all this happened while my brother was away. And I'm very close to my sister in law, my eldest sister in law. And they were away, and my mother had actually come to look after the three of us, his two daughters and me, in Delhi. And, she had left. She went back to Lucknow, and then, by then my brother had come. But I didn't give him enough chance or time to, have a communication with me at all. And of course, that was probably out of sheer respect, fear, like I said. Because in our times, Nivi, and I'm sure
Yes.
you would relate with it, and a lot of our generation would relate with it. That respect,
Was a
which
big
we
thing.
was a huge thing, and we don't realize that respect finally turned into fear.
Respect becomes a barrier because it brings in fear, it brings in the lack of communication, and we kind of are sitting on the opposite side of the fences, and that really prevents so much of clarity,
Yeah.
especially for young people. So I remember you told me that there was this time when things became so bad that you found yourself stripped and outside the
The
house.
house, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. How did what was there a like a particular trigger provocation that you learned to avoid, or did was there no control on his temper, and then this repeated phenomenon that you had to endure, what did it do to your self-worth?
It killed it, yeah. Honestly. Um, I had never seen aggression in my family. We had our arguments. Even among friends, there were conversations, there were discussions, there was assertiveness, but there was never aggression. There was never beating up. There was never
And gender violence,
and gender violence.
yeah,
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
yeah,
Like I said, that I have three brothers, and extremely protective about all of us. As in the women of the
yeah,
family,
yeah, including their wives, right?
including their
Yeah,
wives, of
and very
course.
respectful.
Very
And
respectful.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So I'm just going to go back to a childhood story and
yeah,
to counter what
yeah.
you were saying. I remember once my younger brother and I, he's my youngest brother. Yeah. So everything that my brother wanted to do, I wanted to do. If he was fixing the fan, I wanted to fix the fan. If he was climbing the trees, I wanted to climb the trees.
Yeah.
And you know what
Yes.
old homes
Yeah.
are like in
Yeah.
Lucknow. If it was
Yes.
um making a dollhouse for me, I wanted to make the dollhouse. He was playing cricket, and then of course he was very
Right.
involved with all the, gudiya ki shadis and
Uh-huh.
cooking and all that with me.
Yeah.
So one day he was fixing the TV, and I went to him and I said, I must have been about 7, 8 years old. And I went to him, I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm trying to fix the TV. So I said, I also want to fix. He said, you don't get involved right now because I'm trying to fix the TV. So I said, no, I want to. I want to know what you're doing. And I can do it as well. He said, I will slap you. I said, you're going to slap me? Went out, got my maid, I took a rickshaw, went to my mother who was in my grandmother's house, and I said, you know what, I'm going to leave this house because, my brother wants to slap me. So my mother started laughing. It was lunchtime, and she said, okay, if you want to go, that's fair. Where are you going to go? I said, I don't care where I go. She said, what about your clothes? Because they're in the other house. I said, I don't want to take any clothes. This family doesn't love me. My brother wants to slap me. And I've just come to tell you. She said, okay, thank you for the information. Why don't you have lunch before you go? It's lunchtime. So I said, all right, if you're insisting, I'll have lunch. so, so I sat and had lunch. And after lunch, then my mother said, okay, then
Bye-bye.
bye. So I said, afternoon was
Yeah.
sleeping time. So I said, might as well sleep.
Sleep.
And I used to sleep next to my grandmother. She said, okay, go. So sleep. And then by the time I woke up, of course, I was
Plan had
back.
changed.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my brother had, of course, come because he could ride the bike. So before I could reach in the rickshaw, my brother had gone already and told her the story. So that's the way my family was. I stayed with my eldest brother in Delhi, teenage years, not allowed to go out at night. So my sister-in-law and a few school friends of mine, would come and speak to my brother and convince him over weeks and days to allow me to go out in the evening or spend the night with a friend of mine. Uh, but my brother never, ever spoke to me about it. And I never spoke to him about it. So I never walked up to him directly and said, hey, listen, I want permission to go out at night. I used to tell my sister-in-law. So, and that slowly set in as a fear. So when it was shocking I think to my brain cells, when the first time, you know, this man got aggressive, started, flying plates at me. And that aggression, anything could trigger that aggression off. Not necessarily that the food is bad, the bed is bad, the movie is bad, no smokes, whatever, it could be. And that's something that I couldn't understand because, and slowly, I started getting depression. Or not really depression, but
Terrified,
I started
basically.
getting terrified because, I had left home. There was nobody I knew. I mean, in the sense that, per
Yeah.
se, I couldn't
Yeah.
go back. Since I had made that decision, I wanted to live up to it and really live up to it. And surprisingly, I lived with that for 10 years.
What made you stay in that relationship so long? And also, you tried a couple of times even to commit suicide, right? You
Not then.
not then.
Not then.
That was later.
I don't know. I suppose, and I'm still trying to figure out because we just continued and continued. I came back, my family was, of course, around me. Um, they did take me back. I don't know how much they really all accepted me. But of course, things do change. Things do change. And I didn't really expect it from my family, honestly. And yet again, I was taken by surprise.
You thought they would not take
Yeah,
you back?
yeah. I thought they would not, and my mother had expired when I came back, and my brother, my eldest brother, of course, very quietly, and without really, I don't even have the word for that. I just suddenly got a call from the travel agent in my office. I don't know how they tracked me in Bangalore and said that there is a ticket waiting for you. Um, if you'd like to go, come and collect the ticket. And, you know, then of course my cousin called and said, I think you should go because your mother, and I was very close to my mother, very, very close. When I came to Delhi from Bangalore, I remember my first conversation, and I was expecting my sister to come from Frankfurt that day. And we were to fly to Lucknow.
Lucknow.
I remember my first conversation with my brother, I cracked up. I just kept crying and howling and saying, I'm really sorry, apologizing. And his sentence to me was that, come, you've come home, my baby, come home. Come to Lucknow. I mean, those words just ring in my ears and I can't, can't. I mean, I don't know how to really appreciate a family like this. I'm sure there are great families in the world,
Yes.
but I think mine is the greatest.
That's a very powerful emotion, Saqiba, and I think that despite everything that you have been through, again and again, just the fact that you've had such a strong family backing and so much love to fall back on has
Thank God.
brought you a long way. But then tell me, so despite your family supporting you, you went back again because you wanted to prove to them and yourself that you could fix things, right?
One is that, and the other thing, honestly, is my in laws were extremely nice people. Extremely nice, very loving, very caring, despite, like I said, that my mother in law also was very against us getting married or, all those,
Yeah.
the community jhol, as they call it.
Yeah.
But she turned out to be actually very nice, extremely nice.
So, despite the fact that her son was doing this to you, she supported you, but
She
she could not
supported.
help. She could
No,
not help
the
the
thing
situation.
is that I never spoke about it to anybody.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. I just thought that, okay, so the other side of the coin is that the husband that I married, the obnoxious husband that I married, was my first boyfriend ever. And I thought that, when you make a boyfriend, the ultimate is to get married. And of course, those days boyfriends didn't mean,
Yes.
for the lack of a better word, having sex in bed.
Yes.
Your boyfriends
Yeah.
were. So even if somebody kissed you
Yeah.
on your cheek, you said, oh my God.
God,
you
yeah,
know.
it's yeah, yeah.
So that's the relationship that we had. And then I thought that, oh my God, we
Yes.
kissed lip to lip and
That's it.
that's
It's a
it,
big deal.
it's a
Yeah.
big thing and I have to marry the guy.
Yeah.
Um, Having said that, I think one of the things that kept me very conservative about this was also um a battle that I was fighting within. That I'm the one who's taken this decision. I'm the one who has to live up to it, and this is my decision. It's my life, and I said it's my life. Then I might as well, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
take whatever comes my way. Till one day, I got to know that a very close friend of mine and my husband were actually having an affair, despite all that
Yeah.
that I had done.
Yeah.
And that's when I actually took a call. By then, of course, I was working with General Electrics. I was financially more secured. He did not have a job, but he had also found a job, a very good job. And that's when I came back. I spoke to my brother,
You
my family
decided to
again.
separate.
And they said, it's up to you because it is absolutely your decision, but we are with you yet again, for whatever that you want to do. And I think, suddenly I felt a mountain clearing up from my head.
And this was after you had cleared your cancer?
Yes.
Yes. So can
Yes.
you talk a little bit about, the cancer and your journey through that? Because, there are lots of women and there are lots of girls who have this thinking. That's the whip we flog ourselves with, right? That when we have committed to something and we have made this decision, and it's usually around the heart,
Yeah.
the love.
Absolutely.
The love
Absolutely.
is our sort of, undoing. That once we've committed our love somewhere, that no matter what the cost, we have to carry
Yeah,
it
carry
through.
it through.
And in your case, you found that it gave you cancer. And I remember you telling me that once you were left on the side of the road. So tell
Oh,
me
yes, I was
about that.
treated extremely badly. Um, you know, I discovered cancer, I had breast cancer on the left side, and I discovered it out of the blue, absolutely out of the blue. Anyway, when I discovered it, immediate reaction of the gynae was that I needed to get a surgery. I didn't really realize the intensity in those days. We were not. I
Yeah.
wasn't really
Yeah.
as aware and that well read.
Yeah.
So I went to Apollo Hospital. Uh, I had a surgery. Um, I had to go through the radiation and the chemo, etc., etc. Now during chemo, typically, chemo has a lot of temporary side effects. Okay, one of the side effects is that you all the time feel squeamish and sick, and that's what used to happen to me. So again, and I'm going back to my family again and again. My family came together yet again, and my brother, used to live midway. So he said that I should stay with him because, the hospital was very far away from where I live in Gurgaon. I lived in Gurgaon. But my husband insisted that we go back home. Now, on the way, Gurgaon was still developing. And I'm
Yeah.
talking about way back,
Yeah.
2000, 2001.
Yeah.
So, the roads were
Terrible.
terrible, dust,
Right.
and horrible it was. And my husband didn't have the patience to even wait. So I used to feel sick and I used to feel terrible in that state. Then he insisted that, so chemos, the doctors had given me an option. They said either you spend 24 hours because it's an
Yeah.
8-hour drug that they give or 8-hour medication that they give, or you come in the morning and you could go in the evening. Now, for me to go in the morning and come back in the evening was even worse because, my
Yeah.
body started taking a toll.
Right.
But he insisted that,
Yeah.
we need to we needed to be back home,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
And then one day I lost my hair. So that, so he had absolutely a split personality. Okay. So when I lost my hair, I remember, I was in the washroom and I screamed and I said, oh God, so much of hair coming out. And that's when he came around and said, so what? You knew about it. you knew about it, so it's fine. It'll
Yeah.
come back. And I just looked at him. I said, dude, yesterday you were not stopping on the way when I
Way.
was wanted to throw up, and today you're like.
Yeah.
So it also took me time to understand that personality. Okay, he did have a personality disorder too.
Right. Right.
And then, of course, see, I like to send out a message, and not only for women, but even for men. And for that matter, any disease that you fight. It's all up here.
Yeah.
As long as you don't let your heart overrule your mind, and you create or you have a good support system, because again, if it hadn't been for my family, their education, I probably wouldn't have been able to get through. And
Yeah.
similarly, I remember that, then every day I had to go for radiation. And my brother insisted that I stay with him, and he said nothing doing, because again, the hospital was closer to him. My sister gave me, left her car driver for me, saying that you can't go,
Right.
lugging around in autos. And my husband left me, he wasn't there.
Yeah.
He went back home. I used to go for the radiation, sometimes alone, sometimes with my sister-in-law, or somebody from part of my house. So
But so coming back to your life after the divorce, and you moved on with all the parts of yourself. You managed to pick up the pieces and get yourself a good life, and you were independent. And actually, then you were posted to Vizag, right? And that's where your family also sort of encouraged you to be self-supporting and all of that. And then you met someone else, and
yeah.
love happened again. So tell me about the
God.
second time.
As a, so I can say it in this forum, I don't like confrontations. I am a runner, even till date. Okay, despite all the confidence uh, that I portray, but somewhere down the line, my inner self is I'm an introvert,
Yeah.
completely. Um, I don't know why that is. I don't like to speak about it. I'm an extremely conservative person.
Person.
Okay, and so so when all this happened to me, and I knew that you know my ex-husband would want to keep coming back to me, because for him it was a shocker, ego,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
And when I divorced him, I first made sure that, again, my sister in law actually, she made sure that I was absolutely secure, which meant that I had all my documents, I had all my jewelry, I thought it was my onus to go and tell my mother in law, my stuff was lying with her, take that stuff, tell her that, this is
Bye.
what I'm planning, before I really spoke to him. So after I did all this, and I went back to my brother's house. And it was actually my mother-in-law who called and said that, this is just not happening, and this Saqiba was here, and this is what she said, and, sort it out. And that's when I think he was also done. So he never tried to sort it out. But he did say that, uh, and again, because of his personality disorder, he probably didn't strike him what was happening. So I called him and I said, look, you do as the flow goes.
Yeah.
Okay, otherwise
Yeah.
I will really worsen things for you. Okay, so let's do it amicably. I don't want anything from you, and nothing that I want to leave for you either, because it all belongs
Yeah.
to me. I've built
Yeah.
it over the years,
Yeah.
and let's do it nicely and amicably. So, and that's a reason. And then there was before this happened, I was actually sent off to Vizag for an assignment, and then I came back, and that position was still open. So when all this happened, I told my boss, I said, I need a break. And I was posted in Lucknow. So I said, being in Lucknow, thousands of families, friends,
All
etc.,
of
etc.,
that.
coming
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
kya hua, kyun hua, oho, acha, oha, tumhara divorce ho gaya, what it's like.
Uh-huh.
So I said, I'm going to go back. I'd like to go to Vizag. I remember my boss was, he had glitter in his eyes. And he said, really? Do you really want to do that? Because I had been making his life miserable to a level that I told him, I said, if you don't take me back to Lucknow, I'm in this godforsaken place. If you don't get me back home, I'm going to put in my papers. I don't want to be here. I just don't want to be here. I'm fed up of having, curry patta and rye in my omelets. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Huh, huh.
So
Yeah.
I said, I can't do this anymore. And they have something
But
called chicken 65,
Yeah.
which is,
Yeah.
I just heard of numbers and maths, not chicken floating
Chicken.
around. So,
Yeah.
nevertheless,
Ah.
uh, you know,
So you went back to
so I went
Vizag
back
and
to
then
Vizag. Sorry,
yeah.
yeah. So I went back to Vizag, and there I happened to meet loads of friends and whatever. And then I was introduced to this naval officer who had already been seeing somebody. So we became friends, and I was trying to guide him, support him. He was seeing his girlfriend was a Muslim girl who was already married earlier in Bombay. And, I was guiding him, helping him, lending him a, shoulder. And suddenly, out of the blue, one day he wakes up and says, I think I'm in love with you. And I said, dude, you don't even understand the meaning, okay? Stay out. Stay out of it. I don't, and by then I had already made up my mind that if didn't want to get married. B, if I did get married, then I would rather marry into my community. And ultimately, I knew that I had to come back home. This is my home, Lucknow,
Right.
Delhi.
Right.
And he just got after me, and suddenly, he was out on the roads begging my friends. Went and met my uncle, my chacha, in Bombay, and I myself was not, I didn't know that he had gone to meet him. And then he came to Delhi, met another uncle of mine, all the elders of the family saying, and then my uncles also said that, why are you saying
Consider him.
no? He's
Yeah. Nice guy.
consider. So there was no love happening here, or let me say in love happening here. And all this while, I kept telling him it took about a year and a half, actually more than that. And I kept telling him, I said, this is no love. This is
Yeah.
no love. And this is absolutely a fallback, one relationship to another. And honestly, I think that's exactly what I'm doing too, which is unfair.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, again, my family came together. My sister, poor thing, she came all the way from Frankfurt, got her family, did a, wedding for me in Vizag, got all my relatives, my aunt, my uncle. My uncle didn't go, my aunt, who was very old, my cousins, her friends. It was
Yeah.
a big do.
So family felt sort of, keen that you should be so-called settled.
Not at all. Not at all. So again, the same thing happened. My family has never, ever pushed me for anything in life. Nothing. They have guided me. They have recommended. They've always said. I mean, till date, yesterday I was having a conversation with my youngest brother who said, you must do an MBA. And I said, look,
Yeah.
really? I would have loved to. And he said, you must. There is no age for studying. So my family's always guided me. They've always been my guiding angels, especially my sister. So I remember when all this happened for the first time, and of course my mother was quite shaken, and I remember her telling me that she told my mother, she said, let her go. She's 21, 22, and if
Yeah.
that's what she wanted to do, that's what she wanted to do, and she'll come back whenever she feels. Similarly, when this happened, the second time, I called my sister and she said, of course, this guy came and met. I don't want to really take names, but she said, so he came at my family here, very well entertained by my family, etc. And then exactly 1 year later, on our first anniversary, we went out for dinner, and after the dinner he said, sorry, I'm still, I can't do this, and we can't continue to be married, and I need time to think about it. And I said, dude, really? 3 years later, you're still thinking about it? And he said, no, I think I'm still in love with my ex-girlfriend, whatever. That's when I was shaken, actually blown out of my wits. And
Because the marriage as such was okay.
marriage was fine, absolutely fine. It's just that I had trusted the incorrect person yet again. And I was blown. I didn't know what struck me. So I went back to Vizag. Uh, and I tried reaching him many times, saying his
Yeah.
parents were living with me and we had a language barrier.
Yeah.
But I told them, I said, this is what, your sons told me and that's why I'm back. Meanwhile, was already preparing to move to Bombay because he'd got a posting in Bombay. So, I started selling my stuff, whatever. So, winding up household stuff. And he just wouldn't respond. And that's when, I said, I really have let my family down all the time. What is come of me? Where am I headed? What am I doing? And what am I taking my family for? Just because, they keep coming around, especially, my elder sister-in-law, I'm very close to her. She's been extremely understanding. My sister, was supposed to be rough and tough, but while she is rough and tough, very tough with me. But, her logical thinking, to all the time support me, in her own way. Of course, she keeps getting back
Yeah.
to me, but in her own way to say, okay, we are there. Keeping my other two brothers under control because my youngest brother,
Gets upset.
he gets very upset and keeping them, keeping the family together, saying that, okay, if,
Yeah.
like one fish is flying away, we'll
Let's
get her
do
back,
this. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I said, I can't go back to my family and tell them that, look, it's the second time it's happening. That's when I took overdose of sleeping pills and, arrived in
And
the hospital.
who found you?
So luckily there was a friend of mine who had come to visit me in Vizag, and usually I wake up very early, and that day I didn't wake up early, and I continued to sleep. And when she tried to shake me, she realized that I was sinking. And she got another friend of mine, a couple, a very old couple, friends, and they came rushing. In fact, I remember that they came in the night suit because they said,
Yeah.
so
Anything
they
can happen.
somehow put me in the car, took me to the hospital, and I was managing an entire organization. So I remember whipping my, unfortunately he's no more, but he actually told the doctors and the hospital saying that please don't make it public because I
Yeah.
was a public figure in Vizag. So they said,
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't want stories floating about her
Yeah.
or her organization. And I think that was extremely incredible.
Hmm.
So once I recovered from there, next day, it took me 2, 3 days. My husband didn't speak to me. Once he spoke to me and he said, you know, more so now that I don't want to have anything to do with you. And that made things even worse for me. The only thing I remember having a conversation with my sister, and she said, and she told my friend, she said, somehow just get her to Delhi. Get her to Delhi, just make sure she gets to Delhi. So about a week later, a couple of days later, actually, when I felt a bit better, I came to Delhi. And not once did any of them
Say anything.
say anything. They just again accepted me with open wings. And I went through an entire phase of depression. I had put in my papers 6 months. I was not allowed to be alone at all. So and all three brothers of mine live in and around NCR. So I had to go and I was spending 2 weeks in one brother's house, 2 weeks in one brother's house, 2 weeks in one brother's house. All I did at that time, and this is what I would like to tell people who are listening to me, is I did a lot of reading while it was on marriage malpractices, but
Yeah.
even then,
Yeah.
I did a lot of reading. Um, and that's what gave me a lot of solace to read about other women's lives, read about stories of great people. And then one day, my youngest brother, he just came and threw a phone at me, and my middle brother, you know, He came and gave me his laptop, saying, "You're going to get onto the laptop." And my brother said, "Start calling people, start calling your friends. It's been 6 months, and we can't see you like this anymore. You've had enough support, basically.
Get on with it.
Get on with life."
Yeah.
And that's when the next day, and I don't know, probably is just inner power or mother's power or my sister's power, that I just woke up the next morning and I said, "That's it. It's not happening to me anymore. It is not me. I belong to a very, very good family who's, we are way beyond all this."
All this.
Exactly the thoughts, the words that ran in my head. And I said, "I'm going to get going." I called up a friend of mine. I said, "I don't have money." He's a car dealer. I said, "I want a car by the evening." He said, "Okay." And I said, "I want a fully loaded car. I don't know when I want to pay for it." The next morning, there was a car standing at my door. A friend of mine, a school friend of mine, discovered that I was in Delhi. And I think she came again, like an angel, really like an angel. She called me. And she gave me a huge pep talk saying that you're a Velamite, you can't be doing this. You are, your family, as a person that I've known you, da 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 da. She went on and on and on. And she had my profile, my CV. She said, "I am going to send your profile to another Velamite and you are going to get a job." And I said, "I don't want a job." She said, "There is no happening."
Yeah.
Okay, so I've already sent it while talking to you. That's when I thought, I said, my God, technology is really improved. So she sent my profile, another one of my,
Yeah.
came into action and I got a job. But my depression continued for some time. And of course, then, one day I stood up to my family and I said, "Look, I'm an individual, grown up now, 33 years old. I need to find a place, of
Yeah.
my own." And that's when my sister actually, again, came into action. She said, "Of course, but you will stay," while my brothers were very against it. And they said, "No, you will have to continue staying with one of us." And I said, my sister understood. And she said, "No, let her be." But she said, "You have to stay close to one of the brothers so that, we can keep an eye on you."
And you actually had a roommate who was a guy. And that
And
was
then,
okay.
yeah, so I had a friend, very close friend. And again, I do these things so spontaneously that I don't even realize what I'm doing. So I'd moved into a new house. My maid had left. And this friend of mine, and I lovingly call him Abu, came to was in town. He had just come back from abroad after finishing his education. And I had moved into a new place. I didn't know, new job, new place, no maid. I didn't know what to do, suddenly. So I called up Abu and I said, "Where are you?" He said, "I am with another friend." I said, "Where are your bags?" He said, "Here." I said, "Just pack up and come to my place." So, of course, he said, "You're looking for a house bitch." So, anyway, so he came and I said, "Live here?" He said, he was looking for a PG accommodation. So he said, "I'll pay you." I said, "Don't be silly. You're a friend. Live here. Look after me." And then nothing. And he just.
That's how you
and
stayed.
That's how he stayed. And we stayed, he was. He was just like another woman for me living in my house. Sorry, he's going to beat the shit out of me for this, but that's the way it was. I never felt he was another gender.
Yeah.
There was a lot of respect, extreme respect. He comes from an extremely well groomed background. So there was no concept of coming into my room without knocking or
Anything,
making
yeah.
sure that,
Yeah.
the day had come
Yeah.
or, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, we planned that he's going to cook, I'll clean. I'll cook, he'll clean. So when he would cook for 2 people. I would clean for 1 day. When I cook for a week. And he had to clean for an entire week.
So it worked for you,
So
right?
it worked really well.
So tell me, how did love happen again with Anwar? How did this whole
My dear friend, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Okay, so as my family was worried and concerned, and this is not my five brothers and sisters. They were worried, concerned, but they were in no hurry, and it was very open. You want to get married, you get married. Don't want to get married, don't get married. I mean, just live your life and be happy. Is has been their motto all through. Do whatever you want, but be happy. We don't want to see you going
suffer?
through those situations ever again in your life. And I somehow landed myself back and back and back. But having said that, my cousin one day called and said, there is this person from Lucknow, and he's been asking about you, and people in Lucknow don't know me. Okay, my relatives and stuff barely know me. I was in Delhi. So I said, somebody from Lucknow remembers me from like my childhood when I was 18, 19. Surprising, but I said, must be somebody, relative or whatever. She said, I want you to come and meet this person. I said, look, if you're directing me
to-
to somewhere, I'm not
Not
doing
happening,
that. It's
huh.
not happening. And she said, I'm your elder sister. And even in cousins and stuff, we are very
Yeah,
close. So
yeah.
she said, I'm your elder sister, and I'm asking you to just come and meet him. So I said, all right. So I went to meet him. As usual, one is very particular about time. You and I are.
Yeah.
So 6 o'clock was my time. I was there by 5:30. Until 10 o'clock they didn't turn up. So his sister, and he was supposed to come. Anwar and his sister were supposed to come. And I said, look, I
This
called
guy
my
is
cousin Banti Appa. So I said, look, Banti Appa, it is not
not
happening.
happening.
It is just not happening. I said, if somebody doesn't have basic value for time,
Time.
I
Aage
can't
kya?
be doing this,
Right, right.
I've really had enough. She said, okay. So I came back home. And
Then he
next
sought you
morning,
out.
huh?
Then he sought you out, right? Again.
Then he, so then he, I remember it was a Monday. And he called me and said, our sister's insisting that we go out for coffee. And I said, what for? So then we had a long chat. We spoke about common friends, family, this, that, long chat. And then I said, okay, we've known each other. Our mothers knew each other. Families knew each other. I said,
Yeah.
I would call you Anwar Bhai. And that's all right.
Ah,
And then that's how it started. And of course,
yeah.
I suppose that's when now I believe in destiny. Because for 5 years, and of course, when I went back to my family, Anwar was married, wasn't getting a divorce, he had 2 children, and his family was very insisting, very insisting. His sister came, he has 2 sisters. So his family is exactly like mine. There are 2 sisters and 3 brothers. So another sister, the younger one, came from London and she said, look, I really like this girl. And she made sure that he got divorced. And I said, he's. So
Yeah.
because my sister had very clearly told me, she said, in case if things do work out or start working out, divorce, Anwar has to get it.
Has to get. Yeah.
Has to get it. Meanwhile, it was his in-laws and the common in-laws between his in-laws and my sister and my sister's in-laws. So she also really had to go through, hearing a lot from lots of other people. And then finally, I don't know what triggered it actually. And then I said, okay, I'll have a word with my sister. So we were in touch for about 2 years, 2.5 years, as friends. He would come over, or I would go over to his place. He would meet he met all my friends, and we just kind of hang around once in a while. It wasn't even that often.
But Saqiba, tell me, all of this, so much has happened to you, and so many things that would just devastate a person and, just shatter their self belief. But what you have managed to retain um, is a very open heart, right? Is this something that is natural to you, or has this also been facilitated by family?
I have honestly been one of the lucky ones to have a great support system. And like I said, great family, great friends. I have some super duper friends who have all along my life accepted me the way I have been, whatever that I have done. And they have actually come and said, this is where you are messing up. Don't do it. I've still done it. And they've still come and said, you messed up. But we are still here.
Yeah.
And now I think so that's one thing internally. And externally, of course, as people, okay, as individuals, I think we all should create a strong support system, okay,
For each other.
for
yes.
each other.
Yes.
And that is very important. Very,
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah.
And there's always a give and take in life, like Mama Mother said.
Yeah.
I feel somewhere that when I give to nature, the nature gives it back to me. It's also given me very ugly things. And it could be that I've given the nature ugly things as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, that there are energies that are always around me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes I also feel that my strong energies have not left positive vibes with a lot of people. And they have suddenly become very aggressive towards me, subtly or non subtly. This is something that I realized when I was in Vizag. Actually, somebody came and told me. I didn't even realize. And somebody walked up to me one day and said, I want to know what your aura is. And I said, hello, what is aura? And then he took me through the entire journey of energies, etc., etc. And I said, of course, all those energies get driven by all the positive people that I have
Yeah.
around me, and especially my family.
Yeah.
I think it's been great. And today, those energies are also linked with my husband. And finally, I think I have fallen in love with my husband, uh, despite all the odds. And I think that's what takes two to tango,
Yeah.
because he also has given me a free hand and an opportunity to do whatever I want. He's there, as a listener.
But he doesn't cramp your style or doesn't
Not at all.
overshadow you in
Not
any
at
in
all.
any way.
Not at all. And very open to meeting and being part of the society that I belong to.
Yeah.
Okay, because he came from a little different background. Now he's part of my background.
So, Saqiba, thanks a lot for sharing your entire journey and sharing so much about all these whips that we flog ourselves with, and the chains that bind us, and how your open-hearted vulnerability and your self-belief and your spirit has led you to this place of power and made you the person you are today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nivi. And before I go, I just want to very clearly call out to whoever's going to listen to this. Especially as women, we create our own whips most of the time, okay? And we ourselves create our chains. We need to
Right.
break through, okay? There is always the world outside there.
Yeah.
And there's always support. It's just that, you need to reach out.
Thanks a lot.